Richard. I'm your hostess for Trade Secrets, my podcast. And today I have a guy with me who I can't. What is the right name? Is it Andy Ford? Is it Andy Master? Why'd you change your name? What's going on?
Andrew Masters is the current government issued name.
Nice.
Yeah, when I got married, I took my wife's last name.
Was she the last in her line?
I actually don't know the story, to be honest.
Yeah, that's sometimes what I had friends who did.
It was a era decision of that era. I thought it was like a cool, and she loved her name or whatever. And my family did not love changing my name, of course. But it's cool, and there's a lot of confusion since I make videos on the internet. A lot of people are like, "Hey, can you do my mastering?" I'm like,
"Oh, right,"
because it's like Andrew Masters music.
Right.
I'm like, "No, I can't."
Okay, well, it's pretty unscripted, and I really just started with one question. The purpose is to kind of find out like how you ended up in your current gig. Is the end result of the conversation. But where were you born?
I grew up in central Illinois. Peoria is the name of the town.
Oh,
so
okay. It's a big city.
Rural, very corn, soy. I think there's like maybe 250,000 people there. So
Monsanto got a presence?
Oh yeah, it's spraying the whole town. So I was there until I was...
high rate of birth defects in Peoria?
There's a lot of drinking. There's a lot of...
Oh, that's true of every place that gets cold.
Yeah,
I think,
dude.
Like Wisconsin. But Peoria, what did your mom and your dad do?
I was raised a single mom. My mom is a hairstylist, so she...
Oh, right.
She,
Your hair looks
This
amazing.
is why it looks amazing.
Yeah, your hair looks amazing.
She raised me. She got married when I was in high school or something like that to, the guy she was with at the time. He's an electrician. So my first work was in
Helping
an electrical,
him.
blue collar sort of outside with a bunch of grumpy old electricians. And
you did a dangerous job, actually.
it was fun. I mean, I liked being outside, and it taught me a very valuable lesson that I recognized much later, which is I like air conditioning.
Yeah.
And I love being inside for work.
And heat.
Yeah. And in the winters, it was brutal. So, but that was like my first gig. And then I did like serving. I worked at like a tanning salon.
Oh, that's probably why I hired you. I probably saw food service on your resume.
Yeah.
So Andy did work. We're at East West Studios, where I have the great privilege to be the manager, and Andy worked here for a while, actually. And you're one of the few people that I ever hired from the Musicians Institute. There's been a couple since.
Oh, that's amazing. You remember that? Yeah. Yeah, it was a bunch of craft folks here, and I was the one oddball MI kid.
It's all good. Oh, okay. I've skipped around. So siblings?
No, only child.
Really? Okay, cool. And mom's still with us?
Yep, mom
nice.
is in Nashville, and
oh, nice. Oh,
she's
good.
She's G-Ma now.
She's grandma now. Yeah. Well, we'll get there. We'll get to the babies. So you go to high school in Peoria. Mm-hmm. Did you ever go to college besides trade school?
I started a community college in Peoria, and then I was also working. Mm-hmm. And I remember I saw an ad on the computer one day for like these kids at a console. And I was like, hold on, this is a job? Because there was no demand in Peoria. There's a bunch of, metal bands or whatever.
Were there concerts and stuff?
Yeah, they had like one Civic Center where there's like big acts would come through. But otherwise it was like a bunch of metal bands and cover bands and bars. But there was I got into recording middle school, high school. And I put all my energy into that. And I just wanted, because I wasn't like a writer per se.
Well, I know you're a musician. What instrument do you play?
Drums was the main thing. I play guitar and a few other things, but drums was the main thing that I played. So I would do anything I could to get people to come to my home studio and just let me record. I'll do it for free.
So you had a home studio in high school. What would you have in your home studio? What kind of gear? What are we talking?
Alesis Firewire. You guys remember Firewire 400?
Yeah, sure.
I had some Shure stuff. I had, some whatever.
57s, God bless them.
Yeah. It was the Guitar Center guy was like, you need Audix. So I had Audix stuff.
Nice. Okay.
Just like whatever I could get. Couple condensers.
So established there's a Guitar Center in Peoria.
There was a Guitar Center, and that was my point person, whoever was behind the desk, unfortunately. I remember going in there asking about like drum mics, and he's like, what you need is auto-tune.
Oh Lord. Okay.
So
I would like to say for the record that is the probably worst thing that ever happened to music ever. And not because of Andy, of course, but just auto-tune in general. We were listening to Chris Cornell yesterday, and I was like, oh, man, I really miss that voice. And Keith, Trusty Steve, who's recording this episode, he's like, well, you don't have to sing like that anymore. And I'm like, well, no one can sing like that anymore. He goes, yeah, but even if they could, he goes, it would be auto-tuned and it wouldn't sound like that anymore. I was like, no.
Some people still let it rock natural.
Yeah, well, that's the best. But
this room in that record,
yeah, we're
voice.
in studio too. Yeah, speaking of Chris Cornell, the Audio Slave records were done in this room, and amazing. So, and you're also in the drum room.
I know.
For Drummer Boy.
Yep.
That was what I'll call you, and Andrew Masters, aka Drummer Boy.
Yep.
So you're already kind of interested in recording. Now, did your stepdad, the electrician, support this and help you out?
He did. He was actually the person who took me to get my audio interface.
Aww.
So I had an 8-channel mic interface, and it was like that was enabled me. I had Logic, so I
was going to say, so the DAW was Logic or the
you could find a version of Logic. Apple was a little loose with the software at the time because you had to have a Mac to use it.
Yeah.
But that's what I got hooked on that, and I actually wanted to record myself so I could make YouTube drum covers because I loved.
I forget how young you are. That's right. How old are you?
33.
Okay, so YouTube's been around all that time?
2006 was when I uploaded my first YouTube video.
Wow.
And it was with a camera with tape, with, actual film in it.
Like a film or like a 3/4 videotape?
Yeah, like a little, I don't even remember what it was. Yeah, there was it was changing from that little cassette to like a DV. There was a couple, there was an evolution happening there, but
DVR.
It was like you had to like record it into the computer sort of thing.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
But he was supportive. What's stepdad's name?
Chad.
Still around?
Yep.
Still with mom?
Nope.
Oh, okay.
Nope.
Right.
Chad, but he
friendly?
sort of.
Friendly?
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah,
Chad's a friendly.
Yeah, he encouraged some of it. I had like a bonus room, the A-frame above the garage.
Oh yeah.
Where I had my couch and all my crap, and just lived up there and recorded all the time.
Nice.
And I got the bug, man. I got hooked.
Nice. Well, and then so you saw the ad, and it was for MI, right? Well, you were about 18, I think. 19
yeah, it would have been somewhere around there because I remember we visited California for the first time around that age, and I had never seen a hill because Illinois is flat.
Yeah.
And
Where I'm from,
was like,
flat.
the earth is crazy here. And I saw the LA recording school, I think, over off Sunset, and a couple of the places, and I just made it my mission. I was like, fuck community college. I'm going to recording school, and I'm going to move to LA.
And I think they have financial aid as well.
Yeah, I'm not sure. Shout out to Chad.
It all worked out.
Yeah, took care of it. And,
thank you, Chad.
Yeah, it was a short 6-month program.
Chad, the rad stepdad.
Yeah, and shout out to mom too. But it was like I wanted the shortest thing because all these trade schools are like, come get your bachelor's, and I'm like,
right.
No, like I just want to learn recording in a studio. I don't want to be on a film set. I don't want to be, whatever the other live sound.
MI has pretty nice setup too, and they have a good program. I mean, there's a guy who actually kind of runs it now that is John Newkirk, and he is that his name? I think that's his name. If you're listening to this, don't be offended. I've known you for years. But he had a studio at one point. So it was valid that he became the director of the program because he actually understood what we do.
Yeah.
Those of you who are listening to this, if you don't know what we do, we capture what musicians play, what they perform, and that's our job. Our job is to capture and enhance and edit, fix, nurture.
Yes.
Whatever musicians are throwing at us. But anyway, so then you interviewed here, and I do remember your first interview. I was rough. I was a little tough. Was I tough? No, I was like.
I don't have any negative feelings.
Oh, good.
It was
we love that.
To me. I mean, I was also again coming from electricians, where my name was Princess. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So coming here, I was like, yeah, this is great.
Yeah, I think you didn't have a car, and I was like,
yep.
you have to get a car, which, sounds like an unreasonable request, but it's just that if you run in a studio, you have to use your own car to go do the pickups, and you do get reimbursed for mileage, etc. But, I don't have a company van.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
And you don't want one.
And I don't want one, and I'd need like 6.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So, and then you went and you got the car, and you came back and you said, okay, I've got an apartment and I've got a car. And I'm like, okay, cool.
Yep. The timing couldn't have been more perfect because I had done an internship in my first quarter. In the second quarter, or I did it in the second quarter. There was 2. And I had lined this up. I did the interview 2 weeks before I graduated, and I got the okay from you. Graduated on a Sunday. Monday I started here. So It was like...
Where'd you do the internship? I don't even remember that.
It was a publishing company in Burbank. It was like a little writing room, basically.
Cool.
Yeah.
Cool.
And but I remember, that interview. You were like, you just set the expectations, and it was like super logical. Like, hey, I need to understand that you're a competent person before you can touch microphones and be around clients and things like that.
Yeah. Well, you certainly proved yourself. I mean, for a while there, I remember I was kind of like, I don't think he wants to be an engineer. I think he just wants to be a drummer. And I was like, Andy, you got to make up your mind. You got to figure out like what you want to do.
Oh yeah, I was in a band. That's right.
I was like, you got to figure out what you want to do because we don't train drummers here. We train engineers.
So,
but you already were learning. I mean, you were already pretty far along. But
dude, I wanted to be an engineer.
Okay, good.
When we started, there was a little bit of a different, or when I started, there was a little bit of different culture, and there wasn't a lot of using the rooms allowed.
Yeah,
at the time.
Yeah.
And then when Fred
I
came,
that now.
And when Fred came in, he was like, "Please use the rooms because I want to know if the gear doesn't work from you, not from the client."
Actually, Gary and I didn't frown on it. I think we were probably just really, really busy and didn't have enough time for you guys to get in. I've always been good with people getting in the rooms when there's downtime. But again, like you said, especially someone who's fresh off the boat or whatever, you don't really want them picking up a 251 or an M50. You know what I mean?
I was just
a mic that's worth $30,000.
All the runners, and I don't know if you remember.
And there was not a lot of room for movement then. People didn't leave.
John Klein, Nathan Stewart, all those guys who were here.
I don't even remember John Klein.
John Klein, he had a big handlebar mustache. He was cool.
All right, John, don't be hurt.
But
I know y'all didn't like Stewart. I love Stewart. Stewart was the Irish kid.
Will didn't like Stewart. I like Stewart.
I love Stewart. Stewart was cool, and Nate was cool. I think they had a love affair.
But everyone was nervous about Gary finding out if they played music. So I never, I was like, I don't know anything about.
Oh yeah, because we didn't want you to get distracted with your band.
Yeah.
Not you specifically, just in general.
So I never, the drummer thing, I remember it was long after Gary left, Fred was there, and I remember, I think it was Jeremy was assisting in
Jeremy
one,
Miller,
and he was like, hey, can you go like hit the drums? And I was like, should I let him know that I can play? And
Nice.
I was like the first time I like played, and I was like,
do you remember who the drummer was on that session at the end of it?
I don't remember, no. But I just remember that being like a pivotal moment of like, okay, I'm gonna let everyone know that I play. Everyone.
So you
Jeremy,
did a full on.
No. It was just sort of like I was nervous to say that I was a musician before, and then so after that, the culture was the absolute best, and there was like such a great that era
We're
when I was
very much
here.
like family.
Yeah, I mean, we seriously. I describe, the first year of me knowing Will was a little rough, and then he became
Will on spot, great engineer, friend of ours, new dad.
Yep, shout out Will.
Shout out to the dad. What's the baby's name? I don't know either.
I don't know. It's a boy.
I know it's a boy, but he hasn't named a baby yet, so I don't know.
I believe it's Wes.
Wes, that's right. Yeah, I remember.
Oh, really? Wes?
Yeah,
W-E-S?
Yeah,
Okay,
like
cool.
Weston. Yeah.
Oh, nice. I wonder if that's a grandpa or something. Not to segue to Will, but when he did his episode, it was really kind of heart-wrenching, his backstory. But the weirdest part, I think, about all of it was that he worked for his dad in a mushroom farm.
Oh, really?
And we're not talking about psychedelic mushrooms. We're talking about, like, mushroom warehouse in the middle of Pennsylvania where they grow. So, yeah, all you people out there, just know that somebody somewhere is working at a big, hot, indoor place growing your shrimps. All right, so back to you. Yeah. So yeah, I didn't. It's funny in hindsight. I don't know if I really realized that how much we discouraged you guys telling us you were musicians, because obviously we love musicians.
I don't have any recollection of anyone being worried about you. I
Okay,
think Gary was very intimidating to the runners. That's what it was.
Gary Marburg, our chief engineer, dear friend of mine, smart cat, dude. What a smart cat. Gary's in Hawaii right now, and he's working on some cool projects. Actually, I just talked to him the other day. But a passionate person.
Yeah.
A passionate person who we came up, the era that Gary and I came up was an era of sort of brutal shaming, brutal and feudal shaming, so he came up at A&M and they had like the wall, like Jimmy Iovine had like the wall of shame, what I mean? But I get that. I get that, you hold people to a high standard and you're like, okay, if you don't get here, then you're lame. You know what I mean? now you gotta be, you gotta be a little bit more sensitive to people. But there you go. But I remember you being great, and then I remember you actually becoming, when I thought you didn't want to be an engineer, then I remember you becoming one of the assistants that I relied on.
It was
because you're a good vibe.
Thank you.
Never late.
Thank you. Yeah. I mean, I'm trying to remember if somebody told me this. I remember telling Freeman this, Michael.
Oh, okay.
Love you, Michael.
Yeah, love Michael.
When he started, because there was like a year or two before that.
Yeah.
Where I just never left this building.
Yeah.
I didn't want to leave. I always wanted to.
Yeah. I don't get that as much as I like from the current staff.
Yeah.
I mean, I want everyone to get their rest. I want them to be good and everything. But I don't get the obsession with the building.
I don't want to leave now.
Yeah, I don't either. Yeah, let's just put that out there. None of us want to leave. As a matter of fact, we're going to stay right here. We're gonna do a sit-in. But yeah, this place is East West. The studios had different names. Currently owned by Doug Rogers, great benevolent owner who fixed up a lot of things, including the electrical. So I was here prior when it was cello, and the electrical. This is an old building. You're talking about electricians. This had big, giant, like Coke can fuses, and it was I forget what they call that, like glass and bead or whatever they called it. But, you would align a tape machine and you would get shocked because there was no ground and you'd get, it's a drag. So now, Doug, God bless you, earthquake retrofitting, beautiful redesign by Philip Stark, all new hospital grade electrical, all that fantastic stuff. But the rooms and the room we're sitting in are the same as they've been since the 60s. So places like this need to be safeguarded. That's all I'm going to say.
Amen.
Because the room is instrument, right? The acoustic space and what that does. I mean, all the equipment that we have now, some of the technology is so incredible.
Yeah.
I mean, amazing. From guitar pedal plugins to all the kinds of things that we have, right? But these, you can design an acoustic space, but you can't really replicate what this does. And it's a thing, So but yeah, you learned the rooms. You didn't want to leave.
I never wanted to leave, and as soon as we got the thumbs up from Fred, I was like, I used to keep my drums in Chamber 3. I used to keep an amp in there, and anytime we wrapped the session or whatever, I'd be like, leave the mics up. I'll scratch it later. I'll pull my stuff in. I just want to record just to record. I want to use every single thing.
And a few people on staff played different things.
Yeah. We would all get together and make just nonsense music just to do it and get, you learn a lot about the space. You try different stuff.
Well, in signal flow, you figure out, what's going where, and this mic's not working. Oh, is it the cable? Is it the input? Is it the patch? What am I doing? What's happening here?
And then outside of like the gear and stuff like that, it's if you're always here, you always know where everything is. You always know what's happening.
I love that.
And you kind of become the point person of like, I don't know, ask Andy. He's been here for like 3 days.
Nice. Yeah, I will encourage anybody who's pursuing this, whatever trade school you go to or whatever program you follow and you want to become an engineer, I want to stress that going to school is really just to get the basics. And when you come to a place like this, that's when the metal meets the road. It's kind of like, I always say it's like when you're a doctor and you're an intern and then the next thing you know, you're in the operating room holding the heart. This is the part where you're holding the heart.
Yeah.
This is the part where you're actually doing the job because equipment sometimes breaks. Your mission is to keep the session flowing, to keep the momentum going, whatever the case, mic goes down, things go down. So, a great part of it, is vibe. you know, and how you're going to be in a room with people for like 13, 14 hours. Hygiene. Andy always had good hygiene. But hygiene, there's been, in my career as a manager, I've had to be like, okay, take this deodorant, take this soap, leave this in your freaking car. You know, because boys and girls are young and they're working for 14 hours and it's hot and, you know, you get a little funky.
Yeah.
But so that's important. But yeah, I think that it's something that gets in you. Mm-hmm. You know, and this building in particular, Keith and I say we have Stockholm syndrome, that we've been captured by the kidnapper and we can't leave.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm grateful and I'm proud. So you learned your craft here, and then when did you think I'd remember all this, but I don't.
It was just yesterday.
Yeah. What was the? Well, I know you met your beautiful wife.
Yep.
And was that the incentive, I think, for maybe relocating or?
Not initially. I mean, I met her pretty early, 2012.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And I don't think we left, I think maybe very, very end of 2015, early 2016. I think we got a spot outside of Vegas and Henderson at the end of 2015, but I was still doing sessions with Blake. So I still had the apartment here.
Right.
And Blake Mills, and we were doing...
Yeah. Great guitar player.
John Legend, Dawes, and Jim James, like bang, bang, bang in a row in this room.
I know. I miss him so much. He's got a room over at Sound City, but he came in not long ago and did a theme for a TV show. But yeah, what an incredible musician, producer. Oh my God.
Nice guy.
Sue, a sweetheart. Super sweetheart.
I remember when setting up for that, because I was sort of like, I didn't know what was going on in my life, you know, because we were thinking about leaving, and I remember it was one of those sessions where it was like a week setup, you know, a week. And at the end of the
Love those.
Yeah. And at the end of the setup, he like met me outside and he was like, hey, so I think we're going to like be here for a while. He's like, is there any way that you could just
be my guy,
be our guy here? And I was like, yes, please. I'll tell Candace.
Yeah. Basically, yeah. If a client says to me that he wants an assistant, first of all, that's another thing I look for.
Yeah.
Because if clients are requesting you, first of all, if you're a runner and you're becoming an assistant, and the first engineers are requesting you, that's amazing. If the client himself, the artist, is requesting you, boom, done.
Yeah.
You'll be that person.
Yeah.
You know, I don't. Those of you who run businesses and are listening to this, you might disagree with my philosophy and might say, oh, that's going to add up a lot of overtime. You know what? It's worth it in client goodwill, and it's worth it in them extending the booking and the money that you make from repeat business.
And knowing that you can depend on your team, you know, like if the client wants that.
You kind of will get like an understudy. Like there was probably someone at the time like, okay, if Andy gets sick, if anything happens for a day or two.
Obviously, we had plenty of good people.
Yeah, there's like someone who might be the other best suit. And because it's a lot about what I do besides scheduling time and figuring out setups and stuff, is figuring out psychologically who goes with who. Mm-hmm. I have been wrong. But sometimes, that's kind of part of what we do is figure like, will this person suit this situation? Will they suit that person's temperament and demeanor? You know, will that work? And so far so good.
You got to that's a big part of the resume. When I talk to young kids who are like, you know, very excited and this and that, I go, listen, I know you're the best mixer in the world and you're a great technical this and that. I'm like, but that's like 10% of it. And like 90% of it is
vibe,
you as a human and your communication and being a chameleon, you know, sometimes.
Because you got to be really quiet and kind of invisible, but still be right there when they need you, anticipating what they need, ahead of what they're doing. I mean, that's really a great assistant, is paying attention, not sitting staring at his phone, looking at a laptop, but paying attention to what's actually happening in the session and realizing like, oh, okay, now we're switching to guitar. Okay, now we're going to do this part. Oh, we're going back. We're going back in the chorus and redo this section. You know what I mean? You're paying attention to everything. And it's a lot. Being an assistant engineer is a hard job. Very technical, very people-oriented, like he's saying about vibe. But what we were starting to say about, like, when you go to recording school, and I was saying, like, when you come here, this is really like where you, continuing ed. But one of the things that cracks me up is people will come in, they're teachers, you know, give them praise, and that's good, and they're doing good in school, and they get out of school and they come here, or they're doing well in school, and they come here and they're like, oh, I'm a producer. Okay, that is a red flag to me, because if you say to me in your initial interview that you're a producer, I'm thinking, okay, you're getting way ahead of yourself. You don't, if you really understood what that, and I'm not saying it's not great to be a producer or a songwriter, the way that people work now, and they always kind of have, where there's been producers that were songwriters and collaborators. Then there are producers that are engineers. Then there are producers that are neither. You know, Rick Rubin, great producer. His real gift is eliciting performance. He's a true fan in the sense of the word, and communicates that to the artist because he's excited. You know, he's excited about what they're doing and encouraging them to make it better and do their best. But there's all different kind of producers. But if you say to me, oh, I'm a producer, I'm thinking, okay, really? Like, what have you produced?
and is this going to be the first thing you say to the client? You know?
Right, exactly. Yeah, that's a big no-no too. It's again, reading the room and knowing what to say when. You know, if you're a musician and you're an assistant engineer and you're working with a producer that you admire his work, if he asks you what you do, perfectly fine to tell him. What you don't do is volunteer and hand him your demo and make him now feel uncomfortable because, you know, now he's like, oh shit, I'm working on this other project and now this kid wants me to listen to his stuff.
Yeah, he's like, hey, because he's at work too. He's like, listen, man, I'm at work. Like, for them, by the way.
I'm focusing on this. Oh, we talk about that. We talk about how you're always, people keep thinking, oh, when I get to be an engineer, I'm going to be in charge. When I get to be the producer, I'm going to be in charge. Nobody is in charge but the artist. Okay, let's just establish right now. Everything we do and every part of the hierarchy of a runner, and when you're a runner, you're subordinate to the assistants and the staff. When you're an assistant, you're subordinate to the first engineer. First engineer, you're subordinate to the producer. Producer, you're subordinate to the artist.
Yeah.
You know, even the A&R guy. You know what I mean? But at the end, management. But the artist, you know, without the artist, we wouldn't be here.
Yep.
Without us, no one would ever hear what they do.
Yeah.
I try to point that out.
Yeah.
You know,
100%.
We heard a lot of stuff during COVID that came out of home studios that was pretty god awful.
Yeah. Yeah.
And but some good stuff too.
Yeah.
I mean, I think people can write. You know, you can write anywhere.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
You know, and you could probably do a vocal in your bathroom. It sounds pretty cool. You know, but once I would advise any musician listening to this, you know, if you admire Andy's work or if you know about his work or whomever you see, if you hear a record and you're like, oh, wow, I like these records, and you see the same person's name over and over again, you're like, oh, I like this producer, I like this mixer, I like this person who worked on these sessions. You know, chances are save up your money if you're a band, even if you're in a tiny little town. Get your demos done, get your rehearsals done, and if you can afford it, come into a room like this, even if it's for a day or 2 days, and lay down your tracks with your drums.
So, not to jump forward too much.
No, it's okay. Go.
But the
Henderson.
I wound up moving to Nashville, and I started.
Wait, did you go to Vegas first?
I went to Vegas. Yeah. I was there for a minute, but there was it's very much a live scene, show town. You know, we wound up moving to Nashville, and I got into making videos on YouTube about recording in studios. I had really no plan. I didn't know what the hell I was doing, but I was like, all I know is this. So if I can figure out how to make a video about this, that's like interesting, which is, I mean, this stuff is like very niche.
It's very kind of nerdy.
And
you know?
So anyway, I got into that, and I wanted to kind of communicate. Well, the initial idea was like, I need clients. I'm in this town. I don't really know anyone here.
Right.
And I need clients. So if I do videos, maybe when people type my name, they'll find like, oh, this guy's an engineer.
Okay.
So that was the initial idea. That's not what happened. What happened was all the engineers who are on YouTube watched those videos. So now I've like it wasn't clients, it was other engineers. But I try to communicate, you know, like the home studio thing, try to bring whatever I experienced and learned here to this, because I talk to a lot of guys who come out of college. I just did yesterday. Shout out to the kid that I talked to, just graduated college, and he's got a down payment on a house from the parents.
Good for him.
And he's like, I've got a budget, like a real budget to build a suit, like $75,000.
Wow.
And I'm like, he's like, and I got this designer and I want to get this gear. And I'm just sort of like, let's pump the brakes.
Yeah.
Like, trust me, I getting gear is so cool.
Did you bring him here?
When you're young, when you're young and it's like it's like you want to just, get it and have it and you feel good. I'm like, what's your plan? Like, why do you want the studio? By the way, you're in Nashville. There's 700,000 studios here.
Yeah.
And he's like, well, I really want to be in a band again. And I was like, okay.
So he wants to record his own stuff.
Yeah, he wanted a place where he could do that, and he teaches piano and some other things. But anyway, I was just sort of like, why don't you hold on to that money for a little bit?
Yeah.
I was like, just get what you need. You don't need to do this to your house.
Don't
like
need a
with
designer
all this
yet.
crazy stuff.
Yeah.
I said, if you want to write and play and record music, like set up whatever you need to be able to do that comfortably. And if you're doing it with other people, get the pre-productions and stuff down.
Yes, I agree.
I said, save your budget.
Yeah.
And then go book 2 days in a place and do it right.
Yeah, go to Blackbird.
Yeah, I mean, go get a producer. If you spend that now, you're gonna be able to record and it'll be fine in your studio.
But no one may ever hear it.
But now you don't have a producer, and he was even like, he went to recording school and was like, I'm probably just gonna bring other engineers in, and I'm like, save your money.
Nice.
Trust me. And
Good advice.
I get a back end if you buy some gear. Shout out Sweetwater,
Yeah.
by all means.
Right, so you didn't have to encourage him.
I know, but I'm just sort of like,
not
if I could go back and just like know some of the things I know now about money, and like the thing that's missing from home studios is like, the artist gets an interface and a mic or whatever and goes to town. You're missing that whole team, that crew of the producer, the engineer, the assistant, and all of those roles have like 200 things in them.
When the collaboration that happens in a commercial studio, you go to the kitchen or you go to the restroom and you're working on your record and you meet someone in the hallway and they're a cellist or they're a bass player or there's something else. I mean, we're assuming you have your own band, but either way, stylistically, hip hop people will then hire a cellist or, some classical composer will be like, it would be kind of cool if I did like a crazy funk beat on this or whatever. So a lot of collaboration happens. And I think, since pandemic in particular, a lot of people got really isolated.
Yeah.
Now they figured out a way to work, which was good.
Yeah.
That's fine. But then they also just kind of got stuck there and they're all by themselves. And I'm like, wow, it's a creative community. You need to interact with other people. You need to get ideas from other people. And you're right. Every role, assistant, first engineer, everybody provides some sort of input.
And when you're an independent engineer and you're not working in commercial studios and it's tough.
Yeah.
First off, and you're in like other towns or whatever, you just take whatever work you can
Freelance,
get.
yeah.
And almost 100% of the time, what's lacking is direction.
Yeah.
Or like it's either the song or the direction, but getting the right song comes from having a producer who's like, let's not do that one, let's do this one or whatever. And now you're just working on a song that's not great, and the artist is like thinking like, well, maybe it's the mic, and then you're in this world where you're like, okay, well, let's do another take on drums because I don't know if that's the right part. It's like, it's the song.
Well, that, and the other thing that I always think about, and I know people are guilty of this. My husband, Brian, I love you, but yeah, artists self-producing will often not be able to get out of their own way or not know when to say it's over, it's stopped, this is the right version. And I would bring this up several times where Tom Petty said, look, I'm the leader of the band. They're not going to tell me what to do. I listen to their ideas. God rest in peace, Tom Petty. But he goes, I listen to their ideas and we are a team. He said, but at the end of the day, it's my decision. There has to be one leader. He goes, so that's why I hire Rick Rubin or why I hire a producer, because someone needs to be able to tell me no.
Yeah.
Someone needs to be able, I need to pay someone to say, okay, that's done.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And it's important because when you'll second guess yourself to death if you're an artist. Just keep going like, oh, maybe if I did this or maybe I'll do that. And then, like you said, sometimes you lose the kernel and the soul of the song because you just keep, re-massaging it and changing it.
And if you've never experienced working with a great producer, you don't even know that you're missing that.
Right.
I mean, it's amazing. We've done a few sessions recently. I've got a great intern who helps me. Went to Berkeley.
Oh, nice.
And we did this. It was like a video / session, like a session where we were filming some of it, but we had to. I was showing his name's Stavros. What's up, Stavros? Like if you get everything prepped, like to where they can walk in the room, plug the guitar in, you hit the space bar and they go, cool. And you can roll. That's when the magic happens.
That's killer too. We were talking about like, the momentum. Like you can't, and that's why if something goes down technical, you work around it as quickly as possible to keep things rolling because you do not want to harsh the artist's vibe.
Yeah.
Sensitive, sensitive creators.
And they might be in the perfect mindset when they walk in, and that can go away in 1 second.
Yeah.
And so we did that session. This guy, Tyler Bryant, you know him? He's a rock guy. He came in. I played this track for him. He heard it once, and he was like, yeah, cool, man. And played. I was like, okay, let's
just. Is this one of your songs?
Yeah, it was like a just a track, just a rock sort of generic thing that I wanted him to play over, right?
Okay, all right.
And so I just hit record. We're like, let's go, and then he cut no stops, nothing, one take. Nice. And thank God Stavros filmed it. We got on camera. It was just this magic moment.
Oh, I love that.
So we were done. One take. I was like, I guess that's it, And then we did another session recently where it was the exact opposite of that.
Oh, okay.
We were all prepped and it was all good, but there was no direction, no producer. Okay. So it was sort of like, let's try one like this. And we the poor drummer.
Sometimes happy accidents will occur. Like when you go off rails and you take the song in another direction. Mm-hmm. And sometimes that works out.
Rarely,
it can, but it can work out. I mean, it's called creativity, Mm-hmm. It's not called everything is set in stone. Yeah. Yeah. It's called, you got to be kind of fluid, but like you said, you got to be fluid while giving direction.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
But I was telling my intern, I'm like, man, some days, we get this thing where they walk in and everything's perfect and we just nail it. And then we're like done by noon. And then the other days, it's like, all right, take 17 of drums on this one song. It's like, the poor drummer. I was like, oh.
Oh, yeah. No, that happens. And that'll suck the life out of things, too, for sure, sometimes.
And some musicians just won't do it. They'll be like, I think we're good.
Well, we know certain drummers who I adore. Vinny Colaiuta, probably one of the best drummers walking the planet. And he's so good, and he's got such a great rep. You probably wouldn't ask him to do it 17 times. No. But he knows... he'll play it again if he knows that it can be better. Yeah. And you have to trust that. That's why you hire people, and everybody always wonders, they always ask me like, oh, can you hire these people? Everybody started out just an unknown. Yeah. Everybody. The Beatles made a first record. You know what I'm saying? Yep. So I tell my staff that, like when the phone rings, you don't know who's on the other end of that phone. Mm-hmm. I mean, how many freshman effort first records have people worked on in my career? Thousands. Yeah. You know what I mean? So the point being that, don't think if you're listening to this like, oh, I'm never going to be that famous guy. I can't be a producer. I can't be a famous musician, whatever. You just got to be good. You just got to practice and be passionate about it. Yeah. Hopefully cream rises to the top and people will hear you. That's the other reason why you got to get out of your room.
There's a working here. I watched, what I jokingly call a great filtering of people, because a lot of people, like you say, show up and they're like, yeah, I'm a producer, and it's like, cool, well, can you clean the toilets? And they're like, I didn't go to school to clean toilets. It's like, all right, well, see it.
Keith's expression is when someone says, that's not my job, he goes, right, it's not, goodbye.
Yeah. Yeah.
You no longer have a job.
Yeah. And some people who aren't, they just, whatever, it's entitled, whatever it is.
Entitlement, yeah.
But what's great for everyone else is all you got to do is not be that person. Yeah. It's like, what is the threshold here of who's the best? And then how do I just be better than them? Yeah.
I call it the fuzzy Shark Tank. Oh, yeah. Because I want people to compete with each other. I want you guys, to be talking to each other about, hey, did you see the way that either you saw something on a session and you share it with your coworkers, or you go like, hey, why did you do what you did there? And why was that? How did that happen? And where did you learn that?
Oh man,
it's a learning environment. Yeah. And I have, I have a pretty good reputation. I think I'm pretty fair, but I certainly will cull the herd. You know what I mean? Yeah. I will certainly let someone go if I think they have lost the mindset or if they just, they're missing the point, or whatever, because I think I'm doing them a favor. because they're not just going to keep sort of, no one wants to be a lifer or a runner or a lifer assistant. And my job is for you to train, obviously my job is to book the studio and help the clients be happy, but to have people on the staff that can provide the service that the client needs. And I want you to launch. I want you to go grow. I want you to be freelance. I want you to go out and become independent, because basically then you'll come back and you'll book time.
Yeah.
It's like I train my own clients. This is awesome. So you're when you first got to Nashville, you're kind of winging it. Now you got 2 kids now?
1 kid.
Okay,
yeah.
1 kid. I don't even know. There's another kid apparently in my head. So you got 1 kid, a son. Yeah.
Yep. He's 7, almost 8 now, which is crazy.
So awesome.
I know.
Does he like to play?
Yeah. Oh my God. Yeah. He plays. He plays drums, guitar, piano. He's way better than me at piano. He plays like for Elise, Beethoven,
yes,
like classical
that.
stuff. He really likes classical stuff because it's like a fun. I think it comes because it's a show off thing.
Sure.
Like you get to be like, hey, watch this, and watch people react. So that's I think what motivates him with that. Same thing with guitar. He's really into metal right now.
Nice.
Like he wants to learn the hardest thing, and I'm sort of like,
then he's gonna go prog.
I mean, we all had it. When you're learning an instrument, it's like you want to do like impressive stuff, and it feels good to learn that. But I'm trying to, and he's 7, so some of these lessons are slow. But I'm like, let's just learn some pop songs.
What's your son's first name?
Jack.
Okay, Jack.
Because I'm like, these 5 chords, baby. Like this is it.
Jack Masters gonna be famous.
Yeah, all these songs you love. I'm like, these are all these chords, man. You just move them around. And
so is he listening to like Sabbath or Kiss or Metallica or what kind of metal?
He listen. Oh well, okay. So the metal thing is like inspired by my mother. It's a band called Avenged Sevenfold.
Oh, I like that. I know that band.
And those guitar parts are
they
no
might have
joke.
done record here actually. I think they did a record here for a while.
They're
back in the cello days.
Those parts are, and he's in this music school and they do recitals. So
is he in regular public school or?
No, we homeschool, but he goes to a music school.
Oh, nice.
Just for piano and guitar.
Nice.
And he came to me. I was like, "What are you doing for your recital?" He's like, "Bat country." I was like, "What?" I'm like, "How are you gonna do that?" Because it's 2 guitar parts that like play together, and it's crazy. Anyone who's heard this music before, it's like nuts. And it's also like 6 minutes long.
Okay.
It's very long, like 4 solos.
It's a prog jam.
He loves Guns N' Roses. He loves AC/DC.
Gotcha.
He learned all that stuff.
Yeah, that booth was built for AC/DC. In the 70s.
He loves it. He can play all that stuff. So he did Sweet Child of Mine for one of the recitals.
Aww,
played all the solos,
song.
sang. He's a performer. He loves like magic. He loves Rubik's Cube. Anything he can perform for you, he loves doing. He's very smart too. But
we like that.
But yeah, that's a fun part of
watching a kid
grow. And we play together. He comes to my studio and he ripped on me the other day, a couple weeks ago, because I didn't have a piano, and he plays piano, so he came in and he's just like, I just don't understand how you can have a studio and you don't have a piano. And I was like, hey, buddy, I had a piano, by the way. He's like, what? And I was like, yeah, it's in your room.
Oh, right.
He's like, oh, I play it every day. I love my piano. I'm like,
please don't take my piano.
But that's why it's not here.
So, this is so cool. So now I know you're doing the videos, and that's primarily what you've been doing. How do we find your videos?
On YouTube, you just type my name in, Andrew Masters, and I have another channel. The Andrew Masters, the thing that took off with that was these studio tours.
Got you.
I'd take people in, and we would just tell the story of the studio.
You did a great one here. I love it.
Yeah, that was my biggest. Like this has to be my masterpiece.
Aww.
I worked very, very hard on that, and I'm very proud of it.
Yeah.
Wish you were in it.
Yeah.
But that one is on the Andrew Masters channel. It's all tours. I've done I just did one with Butch Vig. I did one with Butch Walker, Bob Clearmountain.
Only people named Butch.
Ray Parker Jr.
Oh, cool. Ray Parker Jr.
A lot of cool cats. Kevin Churko. And then I have another channel called Studio Time. That's about everything that happens during studio time. It's like session stuff, studio workflow, a lot of studio setup stuff.
Okay.
I've come to the realization lately that the reason I'm so obsessed with the flow of the room and the gear and the routing is because I was here for 6 years.
Oh, okay.
Where every day was, we got to set this up and it's got to be ready to go.
I love it.
Everything has to be ready to go.
I love it. Okay, so, and I know, is Sweetwater one of your main clients?
They have been sponsoring
Your sponsor, right?
Yeah, sponsoring my videos since 2021.
Great company.
They have, yeah, I mean,
God
the
bless.
sponsor thing is funny for a lot of people who aren't familiar with like getting sponsors. It's always different, like clients.
I need to get one for this podcast, by the way. I figured
Yeah. But Sweetwater just lets me do my thing. When I first had a meeting, I was very reluctant because a lot of companies will try to tell you what to do, tell you what to say, and it's just very annoying. And if you're,
it's not really conducive to creating.
Yeah,
either.
if your thing, especially if they're coming to you for how you create, it's like, why are you going to tell me to do it your way?
Yeah.
And Sweetwater's never done that, and I applaud them for that. And also because they're a retailer, they're not like one brand.
Right, they're repping all these different
all
lines.
the brands. So
I think they're the largest
online retailer,
maybe in the world, probably.
I'll say that. So. Let's go. That Sweetwater is the biggest online retailer in the world.
I think they are. No, honestly, I really do. I think they are.
Yeah.
And I know they're always taking on new lines. And
yeah.
I never thought about that. So if you work at a company like that, who gets to decide what line they rep?
They have an onboarding process where they're like, I know a little bit about it, and it's
grueling,
fucking crazy.
Okay.
They have like thousands of sales reps.
Okay.
So when they bring in a new company or product, the company has to do like a training for the sales reps.
Right.
And they have so many that they have this huge theater that they do like 3 a day just to train all of them.
Interesting.
And it's like the rep is your first defense. The sales rep. So,
and credit to them that they want their reps to understand what they're selling.
Well,
because
yes.
I can say that's happened. I've been in situations where that was not the case.
I mean, and obviously with any company, you're going to have a variety of reps. Some are going to be amazing. Some are going to.
Yeah, everybody's got strengths, but still, I think it's a credit to them that they actually want to make sure that their people are trained on whatever they're repping.
Yeah, it's very thorough, and
that's cool.
It's cool. They've got I don't know if you've ever been to the campus.
I haven't. It's in
nuts.
Indiana, right?
It's like
what town in Indiana?
Fort Wayne.
Oh, okay.
So it's basically Sweetwater Town,
Right.
But the campus is like the biggest thing.
And
you've
I
ever
know they have
seen
studios too, don't they?
Yeah, they've got a studio there. Sean Dealey is the engineer.
Okay.
And
it's
big?
Cool. Is it big like Studio One or?
I would say their A room is kind of like this.
Okay, Studio 2.
Different vibe, different layout, but size wise,
okay.
This is like their A room. They've got a couple other smaller, like at most mix rooms.
Do they have like analog consoles?
They have a Rupert Neve design
nice.
console in the A room and
nice.
big ATCs.
Nice.
Which is. Oh, that's
My
you.
phone is ringing, which I never look at during the podcast, and it's a number I don't recognize. So there you go.
But yeah, it's cool. But yeah, they've been a huge supporter for what I do. So I love them, and I always try to look out for them.
That buzz is now being picked up. Whatever. Sorry about the buzz on the podcast here. I'm going to turn my phone off. Look, see, I'm turning it off now. Sorry about that. So. You're in Nashville. You got Jack. You got this thing rocking.
Yeah. I got a separate studio, by the way. It's like its own thing.
It's not in your house.
No. Yeah.
Probably better for the marriage.
Seriously. I mean, the separation is really, really nice.
I always think it's important to go. I don't want to say work, but to leave your house to go to do what you do.
And it gives you time to miss each other.
True that. Yeah, for sure. I also think, and I've seen this happen many times, where record companies own a studio, and it's cyclical. I've seen it happen over and over again. I'm not saying it can't work, but artists don't always like it when the suits or whatever come in and observe what they're doing when they're creating. So people need a sanctuary and a safe place to create. And that's what this is like a hotel. I always say it's a hotel with technology, but it's all about privacy. It's all about getting them what they need, being set up and ready to go, and then like getting out of the way and letting them do their thing. And that's another part of our job. Another part of our job, a big part of our job, is it's not about us.
Yeah.
And remembering that when you have a strong ego, even if you're really good, and you're like, oh, I want to tell them something because I think it'll make it better. There's a way to do that.
Yeah.
And to go through the producer or to go through the first engineer.
Yeah.
So that you don't overstep. Yeah. Exactly. So that you don't overstep your boundaries. But I think it's really important because studios, people have home studios and then your wife gets sick of your friends coming over at 3 a.m.
Yeah. They got to go into the bathroom, and it's like, hold on, let me check the bathroom.
Yeah, they got to walk through
I've
the
got
house.
a kid,
Yeah, you got a kid. So yeah. Well, this is cool. Do you have a name for your studio?
I just
Masterworks.
Andrew Master Studio.
There you go.
It's just the easiest way to search. But no, it's cool.
Is it for hire? Can people rent it?
Yeah, people can book it. I'd like to book it a little bit more just because it's expensive to run a studio.
Yeah.
I'm like, come on in.
Well, you're leasing the space.
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
Yeah.
So, but it's fun, and I'm obsessed with this. So this is my version of East West. I'm like, it's in a house, but it's sweet, but I'm still like, everything has to be, you come in, you can touch it, it's ready to go. The kitchen's got to be stocked. It's nice. So I'm trying to train my very small team up like you did with me here.
Aww.
And pass on like those less. But dude, hiring people and managing people is freaking hard.
It is the hardest part of the gig, dude.
Yeah.
And I mean, we were talking earlier about the entitlement thing. Okay, you've already, we've figured out that you went to school. We've interviewed you once or twice. And some people interview really well, and then they're like lame, like they hide.
Oh, okay.
That's the thing. Don't hide.
Yeah.
Find something to do. There's plenty to do. Find something to do. Don't hide. But yeah, the people and the excuses, man. The stuff that comes up. And again, he was saying earlier how he wanted to live here. If you're doing a job, and I say this, I save people from themselves. If you're doing a job and you don't want to be here and you don't want to learn and you're coming up with excuses and you don't want to go in, do yourself a favor.
Yeah.
Quit.
Yeah.
Especially when you're younger, it's you've got plenty of time to figure it out.
Yep.
I always tell people, and I think I probably told you this when they're interviewing, I'm like, look, coming and working at commercial studio is very an interesting skill set. It's different than a lot of other jobs, and it's all about figuring out what you want to do, and a lot about figuring out what you don't want to do.
Yeah.
Like a lot of people come and work in a studio environment and realize that they like live sound, or maybe they want to do post-production. They want to work on film. And because we're really diverse here, so we do a lot of scoring for TV and film. We do a lot of rock sessions, a lot of hip-hop sessions. So you're going to learn the flow of every kind of session. So in that sense, This is a great place to learn. I mean, it's a great place to learn anyway. But a lot of places get genre typecast musically, like their hip-hop studio or jazz studio or whatever it is. Here, you're going to learn how to do everything. And the flow and the pacing on a string date, on a union string date with, 50 musicians sitting out there, and not that you can ever be slack, you can't, but the flow and the pacing on a session like that is very different than, like you said, setting up for a week. Well, setting up for a week on a rock date.
Yeah.
Or a writing camp where people are doing production and they're just getting ideas. By the way, we love the writing camps.
Yeah.
Yeah, we were saying be rehearsed when you get here, but you can write here. It's fine.
Yeah, come on in.
Yeah, come on in.
We did some crazy writing stuff here where people were just everywhere.
Yeah,
and that was that
set
kind
up
of
little stations. Kind
of. Yeah, little rigs all over the place. One of the things. So I mentioned it earlier when Michael started. Michael was one of the people who came in, so awesome. Who I was like, "You're my guy." Yeah. Like. Whenever I first...
He was obsessed like you. He always wanted to be in the room.
You're my second. And when I would stay off the clock, which was every day, I'd be in a room and Michael would hang out with me.
Yeah.
And I remember him asking me outside one day, he had his ponytail and his flannel when he was really young. And he was like, what's the key to this place? And I was like, never leave. I was like, if you're just here all the time, you'll know everything that's going on, when whoever's showing up, who's in what room, where the tape machine is, where these mics are.
He's a perfectionist too. And
yeah.
I love Michael. I recently went to dinner at his house. He made an incredible meal that he cooked all day. Thank you for that. It was awesome.
Oh my gosh.
But when he was working here and as he started to rise up, Spike Stent was here, and Spike Stent had Studio 4, was our tenant. And he quickly snagged Michael, and saw the dedication that Michael had, and the, just the perseverance, just how much he was into it. And now Michael's freelance and doing great on his own.
He's pro.
He's so pro.
Yeah.
But everything has to be right. The devil is in the details, and I'm talking. It's okay to be a little bit OCD here.
Yeah.
Because it's really, really important. If I walk into a room and I see a setup and the cables are a mess and it's laid out sloppily, I'm like, okay, well, something's probably going to go wrong here because you don't remember where you put stuff. You didn't lay it out correctly. It's not neat, and I don't let people stumble on the client's time per se, but I let people stumble along because you got to kind of figure it out on your own.
I remember, so I complimented Michael. I'm gonna tell a funny story about Michael now.
Okay, cool.
There was a shoot with Michael Smitty was the engineer, and it was like a video TV thing in Studio One for like months, like a big thing.
Was that for Love and Mercy, maybe? The movie?
No, this was like I think some sort of show.
Oh, okay. Yeah, we do a lot of location shoots.
But Michael was my assistant. I don't remember what the roles were, but he was in there helping me, and I remember it was like it was about showtime. We were about to roll, and the computer started fussing around, and Michael was like visibly starting to get worried, and I'm like, hey buddy, shh, everything's all good. See if anyone needs any drinks, or ask if distract them.
Yeah. Distract them while I figure out what the computer's
I'm gonna
doing.
restart this real quick. We're all good, but there was like a panic where it was like, what's going on with Pro Tools? I was like, hey. we everything is fine is what's going on.
Well, he's definitely like you now.
Yeah. He learned, but in those moments, that's when you learn, And I remember Jeff Ellis taught me something.
Who's our tenant now? He's doing great. Love him.
He's example.
Oh, he's doing so well.
But he and I had when I started, I was young when I started, so I didn't know anything. I was not a adult yet, and I remember him and I like arguing about something in a setup, and he told me to he's like, what? And I was like, had a temper, and I said something real loud. He's like, Andy, you have to speak up. Like, you're too quiet. Like, I can't hear you. And if you're going to work in this business, he was making fun of me, but it was also true. Like, I was very quiet, and I learned you got to actually project and say what you
got to communicate.
Don't be timid.
Well, he says don't be timid, but again, it's not about you. So you have to sort of not take over the room.
Right. Well,
You know what
there's
I mean?
That version
You
of
gotta
me.
communicate.
And then there's Will.
Yeah. Love Will too. But I mean, you have to be able to communicate clearly and concisely.
Confidently.
Exactly. You have to. That's one thing Keith and I talk about a lot. We don't mind if you're green. We don't mind if you're learning. That's fine. Mm-hmm. We know that. But if you display a quiet confidence and ask the right questions.
Yes.
If you don't know, there's no shame in not knowing.
Yep.
What's more dangerous is acting like you know and you don't know.
Yeah.
Because then you can mess something up. Then you can really screw something up.
So Will...
We're giving lots of mixed messages here. Be quiet, but don't be timid.
Yeah.
Be confident, but don't be loud.
Yeah.
Don't be overbearing, but be clear. It's kind of true.
That's it.
No, it's actually very true. So what's kind of in store for you? What is the plan to continue? I mean, you're loving what you're doing, so you're just going to keep doing
things are good. I'm trying to get smarter about my time. I think I'd like to get better about delegating the things that I'm suck at to people who are good at it and who like it,
Yeah. Plus, you'd go crazy if you try to do everything.
I have some strengths and it's limited, right? But that's the money making stuff.
Right.
And then to do that, there's all this other stuff that has to happen too. And I'm not super enthusiastic about that stuff.
The tedious
But
stuff.
that takes a lot of time. So I'm trying to figure out how to delegate some of this thing.
Well, and you were talking about managing people.
Yeah.
People come in with everybody has a different background. You were raised by different, your parents, culture, whatever, and different work ethic. And again, with any craft, you either just devote yourself to it, surround yourself with people that you trust, ask questions, and like I said, if someone like Andy, if you are listening to this and you're in Nashville and you're thinking, man, I'd love to do that. I'm an engineer and I love to record, but I'd really also like to show people how we do what we do. And I love these video series. I love that. Maybe you're a videographer. Maybe you're a camera guy like Nate. Nate's so talented. He's both a recording engineer and a videographer, and he's amazing at both. but you might find that that's what you love to do. You know what I mean? And so call Andy up. Don't call me. No. This is if you're in Nashville. But I mean, again, one of the things about this podcast, Trade Secrets, is there's no one way to get to your dream job. And your dream job might change.
Yeah, dude. Dreams are always changing.
You know, might be changing. I've been doing the same thing for almost 40 years. So my dream has stayed the same.
I'd say when I moved to LA, I was 19. I started here when I was 19.
Yeah.
So, I started at 20.
Yeah, 20.
Because I was birthday in January. But I had just turned 20, and my goal, my dream was to get a job at a place like this.
Aw.
And it was 6 months after moving here, I was here. And I was like, oh, like that. I got here. I mean, I was a runner and I was whatever, but.
No, but you got in, and it's not easy to get in. I get a lot of resumes, and it's not that I'm so mean or anything, but there's only X amount of positions.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. And you gotta be great, and you gotta have a good attitude.
You got to be malleable too, though.
And you gotta be ready, because once somebody moves on, that's your opportunity to be, and you want to be the point person that they're like, yeah, you can go in there.
Yeah. And
I think you had me start with Brian. I think that was number one.
Oh, yeah. My husband. I have a lot of the stuff I'll record with my husband. Well, he's a good guitar player.
Yeah.
And he's not very patient, so that's actually pretty good too.
Yeah. He's a good insight. I mean, you get feedback, that you can trust.
Yeah.
And And
he likes, he'll tell you if he doesn't like what he's hearing.
Yeah.
That's good. And then no one gets hurt on those sessions. Yep. You know what I mean? But the trajectory is the same. I think people think that something has changed somehow, and now you can just go to school and you're going to be a producer, like we said earlier. The trajectory is the same. You learn about signal flow. You learn about basic electronics. You learn about audio, both analog and digital. And then you work in if you're going to work in a commercial studio, there's other ways to go. But if you're going to work in a commercial studio, you're going to learn from the people above you, aspiring to take their place. Everybody in this environment, hopefully except for me, you're looking to take their job.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the point of the whole thing. You know what I mean? You want to rise up. Like I said, we launch them and they leave. So you're loving what you're doing. You got the studio happening. You want to book it some more.
Yeah.
Andrew Master Studio is bookable. Musicians are hireable, even the famous ones.
Oh, yeah, dude. The Nashville crew
so many
is
wonderful
amazing.
Players.
Yeah.
Oh, my God.
Yeah. And they're fast. It's weird.
Dude, it's
fast
awesome.
The sessions are.
Dude, it's awesome. There's a great movie. It was a movie about Patsy Cline, and a lot of the movie, you see her on like recording sessions, and she walks in, and it kind of like the Wrecking Crew here in LA,
exactly.
which was like a group of well-known session players, and they played on everybody's records. And there is a new group of those people.
Yeah.
That keeps sort of evolving. The Aaron Sterling, Keith, what's the guy's name? Sean Hurley. He's amazing.
Oh, yeah.
These guys are amazing, and they're for hire. So
Jake
Reed, amazing. Kate Dunton, his beautiful wife, incredible pianist. Jake Reed's a drummer. But if you're listening to records and you hear a record or you hear something on radio or streaming service and you go, man, I really like that, go investigate and find out who played on the record, who recorded it, where it was recorded, who the assistant was, who the producer was, because then you're going to figure out like, oh, these are the people I want to work with. Yeah. And everybody's for hire. So I'm excited about what the future holds for you and what you're going to be able to do.
Thank you. I'm grateful.
Are we ever going to get to hear your record?
Yeah, I'll play for you right after this.
Awesome.
Yeah. I want to say.
Are you singing?
I am singing. Yeah.
Nice.
I want to thank you for this.
Oh.
Obviously the podcast, but like what you do, this place. Aww. Seriously, this place has completely shaped my whole life. What I do, everything that I know, everything that I share with everyone else.
Aww, thank you.
And it's super important. I try to, I'm not great at the management thing, so I'm trying to be better at helping other people accomplish their goals, and I hope that that's like the move.
It's an uplifting thing. I mean, it's a positive thing. It's rewarding.
One thing people ask me, because I post shit to the internet as my business, so anyone can ask crazy questions. But something that I think people could hear that might help them is like, how did you get a job in that studio? The number one way to get a job in a studio like this is fucking move here and work hard and apply.
Yeah.
You're never going to get this job if you live in Michigan and you're just like,
dreaming.
Yeah. I mean, you have to go there and put yourself at risk and be work.
I mean, you can also find the best studio in your hometown.
Yeah, true.
We also want great, talented engineers in secondary markets and in smaller markets.
Yeah.
I'm from a small town. I'm from Charleston, South Carolina. I have 3 older brothers. They came out here. They were going to be rock stars or musicians. They're great musicians. And they ended up getting jobs at the record plant in like the early 70s. And they didn't even call them runners. They called them janitors.
Oh,
and
sick,
they started working on records. But I would come out in high school. People always wonder, like, how did I get my job? I'd come out in high school to visit my older brothers.
Yeah.
And a lot of people that worked at the record plant then were like, Mike Klink was on the desk, or Jim Scott was a runner.
Yeah.
Jim had already gone to school to be a geologist. He was like 30 and he came back, and Jim is an unbelievable producer and recording engineer and mixer, and friend and client. But I came out and then I moved back out here. My mom, my brothers were out here. I was all by myself going to school in South Carolina. And I moved out here and I was going to be a marriage counselor.
What?
Yeah. I was a psych major and I was going to be a marriage counselor, which, by the way, I think I'd be amazing.
Yeah.
But psychology really helped me in my job.
Yeah.
And I started working for my brother, Steve Smith. My maiden name is Smith. Steve helped me. He launched me. Steve, shout out to you. I love you so much. My brothers, Rick, David, y'all the best. And I worked for Steve during the day and I bartended at night. And I started learning how to assist, and I'm learning about electronics and learning about signal flow and things like that. And I wasn't very good. Like I could run a tape machine, but I did a session with some amazing people. I've told this story many times. I won't go into it again, but I said, I don't think I have the electronics aptitude to be an amazing recording engineer. And I have such reverence to this day for the craft of recording.
Yeah.
Like people they need to really grok how great a job to be a recording engineer is, and how if you think you don't need an engineer, you don't get on a plane without a pilot. Okay.
Yeah.
So I'm just going to put that out there. But I said to my brother, I said, I'd worked in hotels and worked as a bartender. I don't think I'm a great engineer, but I would like to help you book it. And he said, oh, that'd be great. Please help me book it. And he's a great engineer too, my brother. He teaches at a recording school up in Seattle at Northwest University. But anyway, one of the first calls we got was Mike Klink, who'd worked with him at the record plant. So the people that you work with when you're coming up, ideally, are going to be your peers throughout your whole career.
Yep.
Giving each other work, helping each other, supporting each other, referring each other. And Mike called, and he had this band, and they'd already been recorded, and they had to re-record the whole record, and it was on Geffen. And he said, Candace, I need a bunch of time. And I said, okay, we'll give you a good deal. The studio is called Take One. It's where Glenwood Place is now in Burbank. And that was Guns N' Roses, Appetite for Destruction. So as a manager, that was my first big thing I ever booked. And I still work with Mike. And Mike, I love you. You're freaking amazing. But yeah, Andy's right. If you want to work in a big studio, if you want to work with A-list artists, you got to move to the town. You got to move where they're at, whether it's Nashville. Put yourself out there. And I think you'll agree with me on this. Coming from a small town, a lot of people get intimidated. I wasn't one of them, but a lot of people get intimidated thinking like, oh, LA or oh, New York or this, that, and the other. Hey, you know what, man? Everybody's from everywhere.
Yeah.
There's no reason why someone from Peoria or someone from a tiny little town. I mean, Dave Cobb's from outside of Savannah. Look at Dave Cobb. He's badass. Yeah. And he's got his place back there now. Low Country Music. We love that. Shout out. Yep. But don't let it intimidate you. Like you said, just go for it.
Yeah.
What's the worst that could happen?
Yeah.
Nothing.
You do something, try a different studio.
Yeah,
try
go to a
else.
different studio. Keep trying. So thank you so much for being on today. Thank you so much for all the kind words that you said. Again, I'm Candace Stewart. This is Trade Secrets, my podcast. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you had fun.
Thank you for
and
having
I'll
me.
let you know when it's going to come out, of course. Thank you so much.
Thank you.